Welcome to Our Drummers Musicians. I'm your host Luke, and today we have a very special guest, singer, songwriter, comedian, and all-round creative powerhouse, Jude Perl. Jude has made a name for herself with her sharp-witted, hilarious, and deeply relatable songwriting, earning praise for her ability to mix comedy and music seamlessly. She's been described as one of the most genuine, honest-feeling performers going around, and delivers hilarious and painfully spot-on observations. And she's just finished, at the time of recording, a successful run of her original production, Sharehouse, the musical. In this episode, we chat about her journey from jazz school to musical comedy, how she crafts both songs and jokes, and the creative process behind her work. Plus, we talk about the long road some projects take to come to life, and what's next for this incredible artist. Yeah, thanks so much for, coming to do the podcast with me.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's so lovely. I had Elliot Lamb on the podcast.
Oh,
Going to play your show, and I was like, do you reckon I could ask Jude if she'd come? So thanks so much for saying yes.
pleasure. Oh, that's when did you have Elliot on?
Ooh, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Oh, recent.
But
yeah.
that is almost 20 episodes
Whoa.
ago
Whoa.
in
Okay.
podcast land.
Wow. Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
We've just been going quite hard in this current phase. It didn't originally start like that, but it's sort of turning into more of like a little documentary of like stories.
Oh.
And we're just putting them out once a week, but I'm actually gathering quite a lot at the moment whilst
Yeah.
I'm not working. So
Yeah. Nice.
yeah.
What are you like normally doing when you're working?
Well, so at the end of 2021, I got COVID,
Oh no.
and then that developed into long COVID.
Ah.
So I haven't been like working or studying or anything. So like
Yeah.
3 years ago, I was studying.
Right.
And I was playing drums at like weddings and
Yeah.
doing that whole thing, and doing a bit of other work as well. But that hasn't happened for quite a long time.
Yeah.
But I'm slowly making some recovery,
Okay.
and it's given me enough like capacity to do something like this.
Yeah. That's awesome that you're like, yeah. It's great to do something that's like, it's still engaging it, but it's not like as stressful as doing like a wedding gig or a gig or anything like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. That's
well.
brutal. The COVID.
Yeah. It's been a rough time, but also I'm trying to make the most of it to
Yeah.
be like, people can come to my house and I can talk to them.
Yeah, you
And-
can make them delicious. I love this brand of English breakfast tea. I can't remember the name of it, but I recognize that the crown symbol, and I reckon so. It's like, this is delightful.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad it's delightful. I was thinking of before you came here, the very first time I heard of you.
Right.
And it was when I was in high school, because Tony Floyd had played on your very first EP.
Yeah.
And I've been scouring the internet to try and find. I have this memory of there being like a Stevie Wonder cover of yours,
Okay.
but I can't find it anywhere. So I wonder if it was just like a phone recording or something that Tony had played me.
There is totally a chance that it did exist, and like I might have gaslit you into thinking that it wasn't real, but because I did have a lot of covers up online for a while, but then when I started doing comedy, I took a lot of them down, because what was happening is I think I was like plugging a comedy show and people would look up, let's see who Jude Perl is, and then it would just be a slew of like covers. And so I think then it kind of gave the wrong idea of what the show was going to be like. So I thought, this is a bit confusing. So I sort of took a bunch of them down. So there's totally a chance that it did exist.
Okay.
And then I removed it. So, but I can't remember do you remember what song it was by any chance? Because this is important to me that we get to the bottom of this Stevie Wonder cover.
I couldn't remember what it was. I think it, no, I don't know.
I can't believe you can't remember a clip that Tony Floyd played to you, like probably, what was it, like how many 10 years ago, 12 years ago. I can't believe that's crazy that you can't remember that.
Like something like All I Do.
That sounds like something I would play.
It was really cool at the time. I just thought it was awesome. So you've done a lot since then too that I'm also a fan of. But it's these things that stick with you. It's just like
Sure. I think that would be if someone was like, "What's your favorite song of all time?" I would say that song.
Oh wow!
So
really,
that makes it probably was that song because I really like that song a lot.
It's a great tune.
It's very nice. It's just so. He's just so good. That Stevie Wonder. He really knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Yep. What a legend.
I've always said that about Stevie Wonder, is that he's quite good.
Yeah. Some people seem to really like him.
Yeah. I think that, the general consensus seems to be that he's really quite good at music, actually. But, sorry to state something so controversial on your delightful podcast. But there, I said it. I think Stevie Wonder's good at music. Sorry.
Well, I'm glad we're hitting, the really like heavy hitting topics of the day, coming in strong.
Yeah, that's right. I'm just like, that's me. I'm no holds barred. I don't even know if that's the expression. I've never said that before in my life. But yeah, that's me. I don't hold back. I'm not afraid to just tell it like it is. Stevie Wonder's good at music. There. Yeah, bam.
Well, at the time of recording, you're like fresh off the run of your new musical.
Yeah.
And I thought that I should like hit you with like a more journalistic and like serious question.
Sure.
What's it like going from solo show to full ensemble band mega production?
It's like, obviously I can only answer that from this specific experience that I had. So I should give the disclaimer that I'm not saying at all that this is the correct way to do it and that there's probably much more efficient ways to do it. But the way that this has happened, so basically in 2016, I started writing a solo show called Roommates the Musical. And like, I would say like my sort of approach with solo shows is that often it was a way to put an idea out there that it might not be the final form of the idea, but solo shows are great because you can at least like make a proof of concept of what it might be. And, there's like lots of liberties you can take with a solo show where you can sort of make fun of the fact that it's not really a musical because it's just you on stage by yourself, and like the audience can hopefully use their imagination to fill in the blanks. But yeah, so there was always kind of a plan that like, this is an idea that could become something else, but I should just put it on paper and put it in front of an audience as like so I have a tangible concept of it. So I did it in like 2017 for Melbourne Comedy Festival, and the show was like, that project was sort of tied up with like I was sort of trying to make it into filmed content. The Roommates show was like, maybe this can be turned into a web series or a movie or something like that. And it was sort of sitting there for a little while, kind of stagnant because it was sort of tied up like there. Mm-hmm. And then about 2 years ago, Brendan Suey, who is the musical director of Sharehouse and also co-wrote the show, and we co-wrote some of the new songs, like we started just meeting up regularly, and like I sort of said to him like, I just want to release these songs, so can you like orchestrate them for me? 'Cause he's a really great orchestrator. And then we were just kind of like chipping away at it, and then we sort of just ended up rewriting the script and beefing it up, and we're like, this is like a whole musical now. And then we took it to Desiree Munro, who directed the show and also co-wrote it, and she like started off as like editing the script, but then she sort of rewrote big chunks of it and made it much better. And then we were like, wow, okay, this is a full musical now. What can we put it on? Like, can we afford to put it on somewhere? And it was sort of like this serendipitous conversation with Art Center, which was already happening about something else. But basically, they had a week free, and we were like, we've got a show. And they're like, why don't we put on the show in that week that you have free in the Fairfax? And it sort of was just a really like lucky timing thing. And so we did that, and like Art Center sort of co-produced it with us. So me, Brendan, and Desiree, like the creative producers, and then Art Center like also came on board. So it was like, I imagine that this is not the journey that most things take to go to stage. I think there's probably like, more efficient ways, like I said, that you could get a show from, a solo show to a musical. But that's the very long-winded answer to your question of how it came to be.
How did it feel? Like, that's such a long journey.
Yeah, I guess it's like, I guess it's like 8 years almost. Yeah. It's like because Desiree, Brendan and I were doing so many jobs in the lead up to the show, I definitely didn't I had a few moments where I was like, stop and like kind of appreciate what's going on, because this is really quite special. But we're also just so like, it was like a marathon and a sprint at the same time.
Yeah.
But it was like, even despite it being, quite a large amount of work, like from a producing perspective, it was still super it was so nice to get to experience that. And like, we had a 15-piece band, and obviously Elliot was in the band, and it was like, just like everyone was so enthusiastic and so like supportive and generous, and it was such a great team of people. And I feel like one moment I had where it felt like a bit of a full circle moment was like Isabel Davis, who played the character called Jane in the show, and Jane's kind of like it's like an embodiment of an inner critic sort of a character. And like, we were rehearsing, and she was kind of like saying lines back to me, or she was kind of responding to stuff that I'm like, wow, I'm so used to this material being done solo, and then to have this really amazing actor actually kind of feed something back was like, so it was like, oh, this is so much better. Like, this is 1,000 times better than me like doing it on stage by myself with like asking the audience to just imagine that there's someone else here and they're responding like this. So, I mean, I know it's very obvious to say that's like, who knew that having actors play the characters rather than being pre-recorded disembodied voices, like who knew that would be so much better? But turns out it's way better. So, yeah.
Well, I guess there's more factors to it than just, I'm sure that you would love to have been doing like a big show, but
sure,
the financial side of things is also, a major prohibitive factor too.
Totally. Yeah. Like that's the other thing about solo shows, is that they're a financially viable way to put an idea out there. Like if you're like me and you just love musicals, it's very hard to put a musical on. That journey is quite a long one as well. So yes, financially it's very hard.
Sorry, I don't mean to bring it down.
No. That's my whole. Don't worry, I'll bring it down. That's my jam.
Well, I was watching your series on YouTube that you've done.
Oh, the Sugar Hope Records.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You happy to talk a bit about that?
Sure.
Because I recognized some songs.
Yeah.
And then there were some that were new.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess, and this is a similar thing, like I wrote a solo show. It was the show that I wrote the year before Roommates, and it was called Part of This Complete Breakfast. So a lot of the songs were in that show. Oh. They would have been, some of them might even have been written in like 2014,
right,
2015. And then I did that show, Part of This Complete Breakfast, in 2016, and like toured it in Australia. I mean, that sounds really impressive, but when I say toured it in Australia, I mean like I went to Adelaide for a week and played for like 3 people a night. But that's showbiz. And then we the album that kind of accompanies the web series, I feel like would maybe be almost half new, half old songs. Mm-hmm. Or like there might be there's a few songs that were like in the solo show, but I rewrote them, or I like the last song on the album's called 3-Part Harmony, and that was in the solo show, and I sort of rewrote it but kept parts of it. So yeah, it was similar to Roommates in that way, that it was like a long journey to that form. Yeah.
You seem to have that like reworkings and like further developments of these ideas rather than sort of, oh, yep, and I'll move on to the next thing. It's like a very long and continuous growth.
Yeah, I guess it depends on like the project, I guess. Like, so with those 2 solo shows, it always felt like that wasn't the final version of that idea for me.
Mm-hmm.
But then like I did a show, I think I did it for the first time in 2018 called I Have a Face. And it was like, for me, like that show, the solo show of that is like, that's the final version of that. And I had no like desire to sort of develop it into anything else, because it felt like that was the correct final form for that, in my view. So yeah, like I guess it depends on the story, like what the story is, and like it's always a question of like what medium is best for different stories, like, or you know, some things like work really well as stand-up comedy, and then you translate it to like a sitcom and it doesn't work anymore, or like, you know, you have to like things are funny in different mediums, or things land better in different mediums, and like that's always been something that's kind of fascinating to me as well. Yeah.
How much does that like come into your creative process? Like, are you writing, say, like the story, and then later going, oh, I wonder what medium that will fit to? Or do you start developing it much earlier on, aiming for it to sit into something that you think it will work best in?
That's a good question. I guess I'm just trying to think back, like, well, yeah, I think like all of the above. Like sometimes it's like there's a sort of like a root of an idea, which is like, for example, with I Have a Face, which was the solo show that I did, that I'm like, that's its finished form.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the process of writing that show was very much like, I have this particular topic that I really want to talk about, and it's not so much a story as it is like, here's how I feel about labels and about like binary thinking and about like mental health and all that sort of stuff. And so it was like not so much a actual story of like a narrative story. So in that sense, it was like I was kind of motivated by like, I have a concept that I want to talk about. And then the show that I did the year after, was going to do, then like COVID happened. But I ended up doing it in like 2021 for the first time, I think. But it's called Participation Award, which has like a narrative story, but is still kind of a little bit sketchy. And it's like, there's a theme of it, and like it could be developed into something else, but I also feel like happy to leave it as a sort of a solo show that has a story. I don't think I'm answering your question at all, but I guess like it's usually like the motivation is, I've got this thing that I would like to talk about, and then what's the best way to talk about it? If we do it in a solo show, there's a bunch of different ways you can go. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to have to keep thinking about that, because I don't think I answered your question at all.
That's totally fine, because we got a different insight into what's going on.
There you go. Yeah.
When does the like music enter the chat?
Like pretty much straight away. Like I guess I'm like I'm a musician first. I like feel like that's the most important thing to me. Like that's the bit that I get the most excited about. So I feel like it's a two-pronged, you know, it's like, this is the thing I want to talk about. How can I guess like if you think of music as another medium, it's like, is this idea, can I talk about it through music in a way that will help get what I want to say across better?
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes it's like, actually, no, like I think the best way to get it across is to simply say it, or as a sketch or but the music is kind of there from I would say it's like the first thing I would go to be
sure.
like,
I read, I think it was an interview of yours where you said something, excuse my paraphrasing, but essentially that people listen to you more, not you specifically, people listen more when it's like a comedy song.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting.
Right.
Because I'm a very much like listen to the instruments type of listener. And it made me think about all the like musical comedy acts that I like.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, like there's musical stuff going on that's quite cool. But I'm listening to the lyrics so much more than I normally would.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's like who are your music comedy like acts that you really like?
Oh, like Flight of the Conchords would be at the top.
Of course,
yeah.
Me too.
And then I don't know, like a bit of Mighty Boosh and I'm trying to think of like some other Australians other than you right now that I can't think of. I've been like Frank Woodley.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
It is, like I feel like that was because like, I mean, I love comedy like a lot. Like I was always like a big comedy fan, like growing up and at uni and everything.
When you say comedy, like stand-up comedy?
Stand-up, yeah. Like I actually kind of, I was one of those people that was like, if I was watching the gala, like if we taped the gala, which we did every year, if there was like a music act, I'd be like, all right, fast forward this. Like I would like not enjoy watching the music acts, which is, I'm very ashamed to say that now. But it wasn't until I remember like Flight of the Conchords were on the gala, and I think the first time I remember seeing them, they did that the Lord of the Rings song, Frodo, don't wear the ring. And I just remember being like that. It kind of totally changed my view of like how good music comedy can like that like I sort of feel like they reached the pinnacle of what music comedy can be. Like it's really catchy, great songwriting, it's so funny, and it's like often funny in ways that you're not expecting, especially like back then, like maybe now because we're used to it, but like I sort of feel like they really changed how I viewed it. And then like David O'Doherty was the same, like he's so unassuming and like understated, and like that you could just totally play with the musical format like that. And it was like the whole kind of motivation that made me go into comedy was not so much that I'm like, oh, I think I'm a comedian. It was just more like I was doing music gigs and I just like was feeling a bit, not like down, but just sort of like, you put all this work into putting on shows, and then oftentimes like if you're playing in a band, I just found it hard to get people to like listen. They would sort of sometimes people would come to the gig and they'd hang out, but they'd sort of be talking and you're like playing, and it's like, I know that I'm not like a party front man, like I'm not the go-to like I could never be like Vaudeville Smash, who are like they're so amazing, and they're just vibes, and like I wish I could do that kind of stuff. Like they're so good, but I know that I'm not like a vibes person like that, and I feel like the way that I write stuff is very much like, I think I'm a little bit more like insular, and I'm like, hey guys, come over here, I want to tell you a little something, I'll just be at my piano, and like I sort of saw that in comedy, like you could do songs and people would listen. Like comedy audiences are trained to be listening to the words. So that was like the big like that was what looked so good to me about comedy, was like you could just actually, people will just listen to the words that you're saying, even if it's in a song, which is at the time was like, that's amazing, that sounds amazing to me. Yeah.
Did you always have like, something that you were trying to communicate in your songs, and like that messaging was important to you, so it was important that the audience was focused in on what you were saying?
I think not necessarily that I'm like, guys, this song is like, it's a really hard hitting message and I need you to listen to it. But I think just more like the I don't know how to explain it, like maybe just the environment of like performer audience relationship. Like I think even if you think about a lot of singer-songwriters from the 70s or something, where it's like, it's not even necessarily that this, I mean, of course there are lots of songs that have important messages, but like, I think there's this like dynamic that I think maybe used to be there with like music culture, where you like go and you watch a band and like you're kind of like it is more about listening. But I know that still exists and I know it is possible in the music world, but it does feel like I found it hard to find that audience that was like, can we have a more of a like a dynamic where you're listening even if the songs are not like hard hitting messages, but it's still like it's more of a show rather than a gig, I guess is another way to describe it.
Yeah.
And I did want to be like, I'd love to be just, like I was saying, like I love bands like Vaudeville Smash, where it's like, I'd love to be that kind of a front person of a band like that. But I also could see that I just didn't have that type of personality. And I think you have to kind of play to what you are in a way. So, it just kind of made sense to go where there was an audience that was a little more like, open to just like sitting and listening, I guess. Yeah.
I wanted to ask a bit about like the transition from music to comedy. And we play this game on the podcast where I get each guest to ask a question of the next guest.
Oh, okay.
But the last guest has sort of like asked a question that's like coming in on this angle of like, specialization.
Right.
So I'm just going to give you the previous guest's question, if that's all right.
Sure.
So this question is from Yel Zama, awesome flautist.
Awesome.
If you had to pick one style to go with in your life, one style to master 100%, and this kind of depends on who you have, right? Because maybe they've already done this.
Yeah.
But if you had to pick one style to master and pour into your life over everything else, what would it be? And especially if you've already done that, why? And what would have come second?
Oh. Whoa. Okay, so one like genre style of music to say master and like not really be able to play any other genres. Whoa. Oh, that's a really hard question. Like, I don't know if it's just my indoctrination from jazz school, but like my first instinct is to say like, like jazz, even though that's cheating because that's like a huge umbrella term for like that covers a lot. But like to have like a mastery of like the really hard jazzes, like the real difficult ones that I didn't quite get. I don't know, that's such a hard question. Like, yeah, I don't know. Can I say jazz or is that too broad?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that cheating? Have I cheated the system?
No. But I was interested to hear what you would say because, you've, I guess, like gone into the genre of musical and also like comedy music.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's like, it's a big change from like gigs to comedy gigs.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I listen to the music that you put out and it is not substantially different.
Yeah. Yes.
Other than it's got like maybe more punchlines in it or something. Yeah. But like even your like first big hit was kind of like poking at a few things, like Boys and Girls.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yes. Which totally was a hit. Sure. Yeah. Let's.
Like it was on the radio and like, yeah.
Yeah.
It was big. And, but like it was a bit cheeky too. And
yeah, sure.
So I feel like you've had a semi-consistent like voice and sound, and
Sure.
like my favorite tune would probably be Hamish,
Oh, cool.
the like 12/8 synth pop banger.
It's like the discussion around like songs that are funny and funny songs, which I mean that's a bad way to explain it, but like I always think about like the song Dr. Worm. Maybe you're too young for oh my gosh, is it They May Be Giants? I always forget the name of this band, but like anyway, this is a song called Dr. Worm, and it's like it's very silly, and it's I'm not going to sing it for you because I'll
just like a taste.
It's like, they call me Dr. Worm. Good morning. How are you? Oh my God. Can you edit this out? Because this is so embarrassing.
Sure.
I'm not a real doctor, but I am a real worm. I am an actual worm. And it's like a song that is really silly, but it's not like a comedy song. Like it's not like I always think of like if it's a song that I could do at a comedy show, like Hamish isn't quite funny enough for me to do at like a comedy gig, like as in to do it at a like if I was doing a 10-minute spot at like a comedy room, it's not like a laugh out, like it's kind of a song that has some funny-ish things in it, but like but I love that genre. I shouldn't have gone with Dr. Worm because you're like, what the hell is Dr. Worm?
Yeah, I really don't know Dr. Worm.
You're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Or like, just I'm trying to think of there's but it's basically like songs that are like cheeky and silly, but they're not, and they're really, I think, like really good songs as well. And like Ben Folds has a few songs like that as well, or like even like I feel like Sia had a little bit of an era of some like things that are a bit silly and a little bit that the tone of it has a comedic element or something. And I feel like pop music has always had people like that, and it's like a really like that's kind of like my favorite type of song to write. But yeah, I don't even think that's related to what you would ask me before, but yeah, I like Girls and Boys and Hamish, and like those are sort of songs I guess that would fit in that category maybe.
Yeah, so I guess what could you articulate the distinction between funny song and what was it, song that's funny?
Yeah, that's a bad way. Maybe it's like a song that is a bit silly and a comedy song. So I guess like if and this is just like obviously my take on it, but like if you're performing for an audience that is expecting comedy, like comedy is the first thing on the list. So if like I'm doing a show for Comedy Festival, it's like, well, the audiences are expecting at least like a large percentage of it to have comedic elements in it. So it's like the songs, I feel like you have to kind of sort of write where you're like, there's going to be like people will laugh out loud at this. Whereas like there are some things that are it's like that's funny, but it's not going to make me like actually laugh out loud. And a lot of, I guess, from just like when when I'm writing songs, I guess it's like you have to like signal to the audience sometimes that something like that. It's almost like you have to make it a little bit not as good musically at times to kind of indicate that that's a joke. And like stand-up comedians do this too. Like there's all kinds of signals that are given to indicate like that there's space for laughing. Like one of the feel like a very common one is like a comedian will say a punchline and then immediately go and like sort of start the next sentence, so it sort of sounds like they're not like forcing the audience to laugh, but they've kind of left a space after they've started the next sentence, which kind of makes the audience think it was their idea to laugh at the thing. That was a terrible explanation of that, but basically there's like stand-ups the these little sort of tricks, I guess, in the same way that music comedy does. And one obvious thing with music comedy is like leaving silence in spaces, and then it's like there's an indication for the audience that they're meant to laugh there. So well,
I was thinking of like Hamish, you have the pause at the end of every line where you say like, and that's when I knew, and then there's like a pause, and then the next line is quite funny.
Oh,
and then,
right.
Like there's another thing you do, and you like sing that line like a little bit late. But if you didn't sing that line late, I would probably just listen to it as a song,
right,
without knowing that it was like funny. But there's that little thing where it's like,
yeah, like messing with timing.
It's not musically in the right spot,
totally.
but it's like it makes it very funny.
Yes, yeah. That timing, like that's a really interesting thing with like comedy and music, is how important like timing is, and that singing something intentionally, like for lack of a better word, like wrong musically but correct comedically. And Hamish is kind of it's like a song. A better way to explain is like it's a song that I could like sandwich in between two other songs if I was doing like a 15-minute set, but I couldn't start or end with it because it's not a strong enough like laugh, and I think that's also where I find like comedy is, it's like I don't feel like I'm a comedian. Like I don't think I think like a comedian. I'm a songwriter and a musician, and I'm aware of elements of how comedy works based on my experience with it, but like I sometimes feel like the pressure of having to make things funny all the time is like kind of diminishes saying other stuff for me, like I because it's like my favorite things are usually the things that float between being funny and being like really sad. That's why musicals I think can be really great, because there's usually usually quite a lot of light and shade emotionally, and or at least that format has a lot of potential for like be really funny, and also, but you don't have to be funny the whole time. So yeah.
So do you get musically excited then and put in like major like harmonic complexity or like key shifts and stuff like as part of like I'm making the script, this one's just to get laughs and to be really funny, but also like to engage you musically because you're coming to it from the musical angle, and whereas like someone like there's, I can't think of any names, but there's some like song, what do you call it, like a musician, there's a comedian musician.
Oh, like a musical comedian? Or like, do you mean a comedian that also has some songs that they do?
Yeah.
Like a stand-up who's like, also I'm going to play some songs.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, there's not much in the music, but it's still like a funny...
It's very joke heavy. Yeah. So you're asking like, do I intentionally like make it musically more stimulating for myself to kind of like, is that my kind of priority over the jokes? Or...
Not so much like priority, but is it like because you could be doing less.
Yeah. It's true.
Not saying that you should. I think it's awesome what you're doing, but I'm saying like, is it all there because you're getting yourself like the music is just on, you're like, oh, this would be cool, I could put in a substitution here and we could do these.
That's a good question.
Oh, here's a completely different fill, or feel, or
Well, so not to get too like, I feel like I'm very much like, I mean, I've already headed there, but like I don't want to get too wanky and like analyzing my own songs. But since you asked, so I feel like there's a few different types of so there's one style of comedic song that I do a lot is like the pastiche thing, where it's like I'm trying to just send up another style of music. So like the 90s boy band thing, or like the 80s power ballad, or like just where it's kind of the whole sort of overarching joke of the song is that I'm like trying to closely replicate this genre of music and then kind of like just fuck with it just like a little bit. So so that you might be able to like listen to it and go, that could be a real song, but then there's a few too many things where you're like, wait a minute, I don't think they would, that sounds a bit, like playing with the intentionally shit timing of a vocal delivery or something, like, oh, okay, that's not a real song. So it's like, in that sense, it's like, it's always just about like the musical satisfaction comes from like trying to like replicate it as closely as possible, which is like a fun, hopefully without like ripping it off entirely. And it's like, it's the Bruno Mars thing where you like, let's try and like make it sound so much like that, but you're like, it's not quite the same, but I think it's fine. And then there's like songs where like it's not necessarily like trying to sound like a particular genre of music, but it's like what I shift around from like harmonically or like feel wise, because it's like trying to like musically illustrate what each thought feels like. So for example, trying to think of like, I have a song called the Monopoly song, which is like it's like about me playing Monopoly with my older brother when we were kids. And it's like just the emotional devastation of playing Monopoly with an older sibling who just beats you relentlessly every time. And it's like, it's like the harmonic movement and the rhythmic movement is like trying to like replicate the sort of each state that you're in as the game goes on, and how it gets worse, and so the enjoyable part of that is to like make it so that each section does, like, it's not just sort of a one homogenized sounding song. It's like you can kind of, the music is indicating to you when we're in which state or something. And so it's like, I always hope that the harmonic like moving around a lot is usually to like try and replicate like what thoughts feel like to me, and that they're just they move around a lot. They're at times like can be quite erratic, and also just the quick shifting of mood as well. So I mean, that's not always the case, but like that's often with a comedic song. It's like trying to use the harmonic instability to like show that feeling of maybe like I don't want to say mental instability because that's too extreme, but just like to sort of express the, that it's like, someone did once say to me, it's like, wow, like this song, I can't remember what song they're talking about, but like a song like the Monopoly song, something like, wow, that's like, it's like anxiety in a melody. And I'm like, wow, that's, it's like a compliment, and also like not, but it is, but it's like, that's kind of what it was aiming to be. So yeah.
Wow.
But I could do less. There are times that I'm like,
that's not the takeaway from me.
No. But there are times when I'm like, I do think though what you're saying, there is like, sometimes it is to keep myself interested. Like I would, every now and then I'm like, I should just try and write a song that doesn't modulate and just stays in one key. And it is surprisingly difficult for me to like, the challenge of to try and make it musically interesting for myself without it, because I'm so saturated with music, as and so it's, you're like, am I trying to make myself have a good time, or do I want actually the listen? Like, yeah, it is a really good question though, and something worth thinking about as well. Like just doing it for the sake of doing it. And like because you were studying jazz, right? And it's like, I do feel like at uni, there were times when, people would talk about like, it's such a shame, like no one's listening to jazz. And I'm like, it's probably because it is like so inaccessible for people to listen. Like it's not for them, it's for us. And it's like, that's fine. But also you can't be mad that people aren't listening to it if there's like absolutely no, like jazz has not been the popular music for almost, 100 years. It's like, I don't like it. It makes sense to me that like people wouldn't be rushing to see like instrumental free jazz gigs, like not because it's not good, but because it's like, what point of reference? It's so far removed from being accessible to people that don't have like, you know, enormous amounts of musical literacy. So yeah, anyway, it's a good topic to mull over, I think.
Yeah, well, we have had like quite a bit of back and forth of like over the guests on the show of like the varying perspectives of like the music that I'm making is for me and the music that I'm making is for the audience.
Yeah.
And some, I guess, and a full spectrum of like, oh, I'm doing it a bit of both, or like, no, it's like,
this is for me or this is for them. Yeah.
Some people feel very strongly about like both extremes.
Yeah.
I guess, where does it sit for you at the moment? If it's like, I don't know, like, because if you're writing for laughs, like that's intrinsically linked to...
It's for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. It's like, my partner who's also a musician was telling me about like, I think he saw a John Mayer interview where he said something about like one for me, one for them. Like you know, I can't remember the exact context of it because I'm hearing it like secondhand, but like, I thought that was a really cool idea. And like, and you know, especially coming from someone like John Mayer, who is like one of the very few people that seems to tick. He's got the tick of approval from like the masses, and he's got the tick of approval from like the jazz people. Like, you know, that people are like, no, he's good. Like, I remember there was a few pop artists at uni that were like, no, we're allowed to like them because they're a good musician. And so it was interesting that he, at least at the time of this interview, had this rule of like, you know, I write a song for myself and then I write a song for the fans. And I'm like, that seems like a very smart way to do it as well. I guess like, I wish that I was a bit more like thoughtful about, like, I think my weak points is like, I'm not very good at strategizing like what I'm trying to, you know, it's kind of like, a lot of it's just like blindly punching out and be like, I'll just put this out there and like, I don't know, just like, I'm just kind of going with ideas that excite me, and sometimes things work and sometimes things don't. So it's like, I think I usually lean towards like, it has to be somewhat like exciting to me. Otherwise I won't be motivated to like keep doing it, especially if it's like, it's not just an album, but it's like a show you're gonna have to perform every night for 4 weeks. It's like, I feel like I have to have something about it that makes me want to get up on stage and do it. And I guess like at this point in time, like I'm very, you know, I've done like 6 comedy shows and I've sort of taken a little break from doing comedy as much, like partly it's like to work on this musical, but also I think just post COVID I found like coming back to like solo shows really, really challenging. And I was trying to think of like, you know, what would excite me right now. And like, I think, you know, I have sort of a backlog of songs that are not funny at all. Like they're not even like girls and boys cheeky. Like it's just kind of like, they're just songs. They're probably more similar to like the other songs on that first EP that Tony Floyd played on, where they're just kind of singer-songwritery, piano vocal type stuff. And it's like, I am having a bit of a, you know, I've done mostly comedy for a long time, so it's like, it's hard to know if people are expecting comedy, whether they will be like annoyed if you're like, oh, here's an album of totally not funny songs. And you know, and I have a tendency to overthink things, obviously, because I'm sure that you just get a slew of different reactions. Like some people will like it, some people won't. But yeah, so at the moment I'm a bit like, I'd like to do one for me and then see how I feel after that. But it's something I probably should think more about as to like, who are you actually making the things for? Because I think in the past I've just been like, I don't know, this is the thing that I feel like I need to say, so I'm just going to say it and maybe some people will like it. And, you know, and yeah, it's something I should think about more.
This 45 minutes has gone crazy quick, but I want to sneak in one extra big question.
Sure.
You mentioned with the comedy, you get to throw out ideas and see if they work, and it's just
with the solo shows.
yeah,
sort of thing.
yeah, and I feel that bands very rarely play shows to test material.
Yeah.
It's I've written the songs and I practice it really hard, and then we put it out, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
What's it like having done both?
Yeah. I guess I am a bit in the middle of I had a period of time where I was doing more comedy rooms and I was testing stuff out, but I personally don't kind of love the testing things in front of a million audiences, because it's if I know what I want it to be, then I should just go with that. So I feel I lean more towards how a musician or songwriter would do things. It's interesting to, test stuff out. But it's also you just have people react so differently to things that it's well, who are you, how are you going to base whether something's fun? It's different for stand-up comedians, I guess, but I worry about making decisions based off of a room of strangers' reactions. I think there are some benefits to that, but I wouldn't want to I guess that comes back to who are you doing it for question as well. And I guess comedy inherently is always going to be more for them, which is probably why comedians can make more money than musicians, because it's a not genre. It's it's a format that is designed to please the audience, in a very direct way, whereas music is not so clear cut, the rules of that. But yeah, so I kind of would lean more towards I like the idea of maybe writing a show and then I'll show it to Desiree, who I mentioned before, directed and co-wrote Sharehouse. She's directed a couple of my shows, and I think it's really good having another pair of eyes on it, but I think it's someone that I trust enormously and whose opinion is very valuable to me. It's not just kind of a room of strangers that could be who knows what their point of reference is to what I'm talking. Yeah, so and yeah.
Well, I don't know. I just thought it was interesting because the stand-up comedians have the bombing thing,
yeah,
and some of them deliberately want to do it, or you just lean into it, and
yeah,
if a musician has a gig that goes bad, it's never a good thing.
Yeah. Well, when I've bombed, it definitely doesn't feel like it's a good thing either. But I guess it's yeah, it's such a strange one, because it does happen it seems like every comedian has bad nights, even the people that have been doing it for 20 years and who are so good at it, and their bad night is still probably kind of good still, but yeah, that's the other thing is when I've bombed and not done well, it's I don't really feel like I've gone away with it feeling okay, I've got to change up what I'm doing. It's just more a kind of, I don't think that I was right for that audience, because it's especially if it's stuff that I've done and it's worked before. Yeah, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it's also just performing is hard enough. I don't I don't want to, I just, yeah, having a, yeah. Anyway, I didn't finish the sentence there, but yeah. You can edit all of that out. I'm sure.
Yeah, all right. So I should wrap up. What question would you like to ask our next guest?
Oh man, question to ask the next guest. If you could have any artist's career, whose career would you have? Let me word that better. If you could pick any artist, living or dead, and their career, whose career would you love to have and why?
Interesting question.
Yeah.
5 short answer questions
Okay.
to finish.
Yep.
What is your favourite venue to play in Melbourne?
Oh my gosh. I'm just going to say Max Watts. It was a really enjoyable time. And also Art Centre.
What's Max Watts? I don't know.
Oh,
Max
sorry.
Watts.
Hi-Fi Bar on Swanston Street.
Oh.
It's called Max Watts now, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right next to the crepe stand.
What would be your dream venue to play at?
The Largo in LA.
Is that a comedy?
It's
or
like both.
band?
It's
Okay.
like they do kind of famously do both.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Would the dream be the like more serious or more funny project?
Well, both. Like to get to yeah.
To
That's
do
always
both there.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
as in one show to have
Oh, do
some
both in okay.
yeah, some funny, some not. Like in the same way that like I said with a musical, it's like you can be in one show you can have lots of funny moments and you can have sad moments, and that's kind of my favorite type of show to do.
Wow. Does anyone do that like in the stand-up musician thing rather than like a musical? Like where they play
That's a good question.
what you're describing, like a show of serious and hilarious songs.
I'm sure there are people that do it. I'm trying to think of who, like cabaret, like this genre of cabaret, or the medium of cabaret, I should say, is like very, would be like the closest thing I could imagine of. But it feels like a lot of cabaret artists are either like firmly in comedy world or they're firmly in like sort of alternative independent theater world or something. So, I mean, but I'm sure there are people that do both in the one show. I just can't think of anyone off the top of my head.
Well, it'll be exciting to see where it goes.
Yeah.
Favorite place to get food after a gig?
The crepe stand outside of Max Watts, definitely.
What is your coffee order?
It's a soy chai. But like the leaf chai, not the powdered chai. Like the ones that they brew with the leaves. That's important. It's an important distinction.
All right, final question. What is one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
Be better at making strategies about why you're making the things that you're making. And just be smarter. But my advice would just be like, know more things. Just know more stuff, be smarter, and just drink less chais. I don't know. That's not very good. Wait, wait. Sorry, I know we're already over time. You're probably like, I need to stop.
No. Well, I'm fine. I just don't want to keep you too long. And like, why did I come to this?
It's like 30 minutes later and I'm like, no, wait. I've got a better piece of advice. My advice would be to, I guess I would say like, be clear on why you're doing the things that you're doing and you're making the things that you're making. And, be better at strategy. I guess I'm just saying the same thing. Oh, I'm sorry. It
does sound like you said, I've got a new one, and then it just happened to be the same one.
Exactly the same thing. Yeah. It's so hard. Sorry, I know, like, when you like think of giving advice as well, it's like, my advice would be like, know everything I know now. Like, just know these things. Okay, wait, no, I do have one. My advice would be, don't worry so much if people will like what you're doing or not, and just make the thing that you want to make, and worry less about the response. That would be my advice. Yeah.
Very widely applicable to all musicians, I think.
Yeah. Maybe everybody as well. I mean, yeah.
Probably.
It's probably the best advice anyone's ever given. I don't know. I don't want to toot my own horn, but it's pretty good advice, I guess.
Maybe I'll use that as the promotional quote for the podcast. Comes with the best advice anyone's
in the world ever given by anyone to anyone else ever.
Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Your music's awesome and you're hilarious, and it's really cool getting to like have this moment to like hear a bit more about the process. And,
Sure.
you know, ask you questions like, what are you planning?
Yeah.
And so you panic and sorry about that. But
That's
it's cool.
good.
It's exciting to see like what this next phase is of like, you know, are you going to put out like a whole album, or are you going to do a hybrid show, or are you going to like, where's it happening? And
Yeah.
like,
Sure.
you've done so many cool things. So thanks for sharing this
thanks.
like moment with me. And
Thank you. Thanks for having me. That's really, and also I just feel like I was thinking about the name of the podcast, and I think that drummers are musicians. That's
controversial.
Yeah, I think that they are. I know that you didn't ask me that, and I know that you don't need me to tell you that, but I think that they are.
Guests do like to answer the question unprompted. I've found. I asked the very first guest the question, and then I was like, I don't know. And then someone really like dove in and made it sound like I was so insecure that I needed to like seek the validation of people coming on the podcast to say yes.
Yeah, right. The whole reason you made this podcast is so that you could have musician after musician tell you that you're a real musician.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't get that vibe at all. I didn't even feel like, I just wanted to say it. It was by my own volition. I wanted to say that I think that they are. And I think there are some of my best friends are drummers, you know, like I think they're great. I don't have a problem with drummers. The name of the podcast reminds me of one story from when I was in like year 12 music class, where we had to do like melodic dictation. And then one of the other students in the class who was a drummer was just like, "Miss, I shouldn't have to do this. I play drums." And like that, when I saw the name of the podcast, like that was the first memory that came up for me.
Oh, wow.
But I don't feel like that, 17-year-old drum student is representative of the wider drum community. It just happened to be the first thing that I remembered.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I felt very out of place doing like atonal melodic dictation at uni.
Yeah.
I
would feel out of place doing that. I don't know.
And then the rhythms were just like, just a couple semiquavers syncopated. And I was like, come on, like at least make it like just as rhythmically difficult as this is melodically difficult for my ears.
Yeah, you're right. It's not evenly keeled at all.
Yeah.
It's always harder melodically than it is rhythmically.
Like if I'm going to lose, 8 out of the possible 10 marks for this question, then all of the non-percussionists should also be losing 8 marks to like a seriously complicated, septuplet transcription.
Total. If the question isn't are drummers musicians, the question is everybody else a musician? And clearly drummers are. That's the real question.
And comedic musicians?
No. No, they are.
That's why you're a musician comic.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, no.
Singer, songwriter, comedian, I think it says on your website bio.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's the order. Yeah, singer, songwriter. Yeah. Anyway, you can cut all this out. I'm not saying anything worth.
It's really fun. I normally ask people just at the very end, like, where should listeners go to connect or, buy tickets to shows?
Sure.
Things like that.
Well, I have a lot of, merch and albums and stuff on Bandcamp. If you want to check out any of my releases, it's just judeperl.bandcamp.com. But it's also on like Spotify and iTunes and all the other ones. And yeah, I guess like on Instagram is usually where I post about upcoming shows, but you can join my mailing list. Which is the link in my Instagram profile, which is just at Jude Perl. So
awesome.
Yeah.
I'll chuck links on the podcast episode so people can click through, and maybe I'll pick a couple of clips and stuff to chuck in as well.
Sure.
For anyone that doesn't know Hamish that I kept talking about.
And then we also got to put a link to Dr. Worm because
I'll listen to that.
Yeah, you'll love it. It's great. Now, I've built it up too much. It's fine. You might like it.
But it's a serious band with a funny song.
Yeah, well, they're like, I guess like serious band, but also like I think they have a few silly songs as well. But yeah, they're like...
They're not like a Peter Coombe where it's all silly songs.
No. Yeah.
I still can't even... I don't get the concept.
Like of Dr. Worm as the concept, or the silly songs thing?
Like a serious band with silly songs. That's the bit I'm not getting.
Or it's like... I've just like drawn blanks because there's so many examples of this.
That's okay. I'm going to listen to it and...
We'll go from there.
Yeah.
I'm going to send you a bunch of links after this and be like, here's other people that do that kind of stuff.
That would be great.
Yeah.
A nice line of serious but comedic tinged listening.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Jude. This has been really fun.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us on Our Drummers Musicians. I hope you enjoyed diving into the world of another musician as much as I did. Help us grow by leaving a review and sharing the podcast with your friends, family, favorite artist, or anyone else who might enjoy it. For more info and updates, visit ourdrummersmusicians.com. See you next time.